Focus by design. We all dream of this mode of working, this monastic mode of working. We all sit at the beach, we have nothing else, no distractions, and we can write that book that we always wanted to write, and we will be focusing on one thing. Imagine how good we would do, how well we could perform if we just had one thing we would do and had no distractions, right? That would be beautiful. Everybody dreams of that. Of course, it's not possible. But what we have learned on personal management, personal time management, that there are ways to increase focus time. Right? You can increase focus time on a personal time management level. You can use the ultradian rhythms, the circadian rhythms, and the infradian rhythms. You know, the natural cycles that impact your energy and performance and cognitive abilities as well, to align your work to maximize your capacities there. So maybe you can structure your hours as it is said that you can perform at your peak, cognitively speaking, for about 90 to 120 minutes, and then you go into recovery mode for 20 to 30 minutes. If you don't do that, you will have diminishing returns in your performance. So peak performance and recovery times, optimize that. Maybe you have a circadian rhythm, maybe you're a morning person or you're an afternoon person. You can structure your days based on the way you operate best and focus best. Maybe you have some sort of long-term rhythms. Maybe the seasonalities impact your performance or your mood or how much time you want to invest in what. And these will have an impact on the way you organize your entire work year. Doing this intentionally is a game changer. Yeah? But, of course, right now, we want to do this at scale. We want deep work at scale. We have learned a lot of things in personal time management and flow working, and now we want to go into deep work at scale. Sales teams, by the way, they're fine. Sales teams usually have a singular focus. It's not very complex in the sales organization. They're getting their shit done. Tech teams, tech and product, use Agile, use Scrum, and they have some form of focus by the Agile methodologies that they use. Right? This is chaos. It is absolute madness and chaos because there's no framework for operating. There's no system that allows teams to focus. Everybody is struggling to focus. Well, we don't have systems that nurture focus the way Scrum and Agile have in tech. We don't use the same things in everywhere outside of tech. And that's exactly what we have to do. We have to learn and implement Agile everywhere. Let's just say we have an idea. Let's build an orchestra. Right? So you have the idea, we have the mission, we commit to it, now we plan it and develop it and launch it with a big bang. That's waterfall or traditional way of doing anything, right? And it's still how many things happen in the non-tech environment. Now, what if before we launched the entire orchestra, what if we launched the saxophone first? And tried it, showed it to a few audience members. Let them hear it, let them try it out. Learn about the saxophone. Saxophone, accordion. The next one, let's launch the electric guitar. Let's launch the piano with a little bit of bang. Let's collect customer feedback. Let's collect audience feedback. Let's see about integration and technical feasibility. Let's do the trumpet, the violin, and the drums. I told you, it's a very strange orchestra. However, at the end, we will also have the same thing. We will have launched the orchestra with a smaller bang, with a smaller launch. But in the meantime, what we have done is we have incrementally developed it and we have iteratively developed it so that by the time we launch the orchestra, we have collected a huge amount of data, a huge amount of customer feedback. At the same time, we had accelerated feedback. We have increased transparency. Our stakeholders knew what's going on at all times. We were able to adapt to the challenges and mistakes instantly because we kept launching small little things, and therefore we reduced the risk. That pretty much is Agile. At the very highest level, that's Agile, right? So having this idea of incremental and iterative development, we can look at the two modes of execution that we already covered in the OKR section. We have two ways of working. We have operational execution and we have project execution, right? So operational execution typically comes in the form of continuous workflow. Project execution comes in the form of time box workflow. There is two fantastic models that you can use for each one that will solve your problem when it comes to focus. Kanban and Scrum. Kanban, what is it? It's an agile methodology for continuous workflow that allows you to focus through visualizing work, through limiting the work in progress. So the idea is that we sequence work. We don't want to do simultaneous work. The enemy of focus is simultaneous work. Your best friend for focus is sequencing. So limiting the work in progress and optimizing the workflow within the flow of Kanban. At minimum, you have in the Kanban workflow to do, doing, done. Minimum. You can have more, but you have to have these 3 stages, pre, doing it, and afterwards. I personally have this setup of Kanban. I love this. I use this, and I will explain the benefits of each of the lanes individually. So I start with ideas. Ideas is where I download everything. I download ideas that are not proven, that are not committed. It's just anything I have in my mind. Maybe it's a task, maybe it's a tension, maybe it's an idea, maybe it's a goal that I haven't agreed on yet. So I will put there, it's great because I have a cognitive and emotional download. I have a space to collect all of these things. Then I have a backlog. This is great because here is where we transparently prioritize from our ideas to the backlog, which means we agree this is good, we want this, but we are queuing it, we're not doing it yet, right? So it's great because you have a transparent backlog. Then you have the doing. The doing, we say we have a maximum work in progress. That means we have, maybe we say certain workloads, maybe certain projects, how many items can we simultaneously work on. However you want to limit your work in progress, you're saying that nothing beyond that limit can go into our doing lane. And here's the thing. When something comes up and somebody says, your manager, your founder, whoever says, we have to do this now, you say, well, can we put that meeting later, because right now I'm focusing on our doing. And if they say, well, no, it's too important, let's do it now, well, then let's learn to say no to something else. You have to fight. You don't have to fight workload. You just have to find simultaneous workload. That's the magic in this. The magic is not in reducing workload. You have to reduce simultaneous workload. You have to sequence it. Sequencing is the magic for focus. So now we have the review as well. Parking, here is where we can park items that are not ready to be finished because we are waiting for some approval or some support. And then we learn to finish a task. Also very important. Typically, we start something new. We don't fully finish something because the new thing is more important than the documentation or the retrospective on the old thing. So we are tending towards starting something new before we fully finish the old. We have to learn to finish. So we put something in done when we know exactly what does it mean for us to finish a project. What does it mean in terms of documentation, in terms of retrospective, getting reviews done. So that was Kanban for continuous workflow. And now we go into Scrum for time box workflow. Don't be scared of Scrum. It's much less complicated than they tell you. You don't need to go out there and get 10 certifications to become Scrum Master. You can make it complicated. You don't have to. Let me simplify Scrum to make it useful for everybody in non-tech. So at the core of Scrum is the sprint. Sprint is a time-boxed phase where we have a cross-functional team that delivers an increment, delivers something, delivers a product or a version or an iteration or something that is delivered at the end of the sprint, right? So how does it start? And it's typically cross-functional too. Yeah? If need, it doesn't have to be even cross-functional. You can even do this in a functional way if you want to make it simple. At the end of the day, you have a goal, a product goal, a project goal, something that feeds into a backlog, very much like in Scrum, that feeds into your sprint planning. So you do a sprint plan, which means you agree on the items that you want to get done in this sprint. You want to define exactly how you're going to do this, what's the sprint goal, what's the sprint backlog. You agree, you commit, and you feed it into the sprint. Then at the end of the sprint, what you do is you launch something, you release something. They call it increment in Scrum or release if you actually want to go to the public. But whatever you deliver, let's just call it deliverable. You have a deliverable that you share. Yeah? Incredibly important to have a definition of done. This is one of the magical moments of Scrum is because we know exactly what done means, deliverable means in terms of expectation management. Have we proofread it? Yes or no? Some people, for example, send a document before it's proofread because they want early feedback. Other people wait until they get everything proofread by 10 people before they send you anything. Not judging which one is right or wrong. It's just expectation management. You have to learn to articulate the expectations. Game changer in your collaboration and relationships. Just articulate the expectations. Then we review it internally and externally. Then we do a retrospective. So review and retrospective are two different things. Review is talking about the actual deliverable, and the retrospective is about the collaboration and the process to get there. Right? So we continuously, it's an agile culture. We always want to be in touch with the way we worked and collaborated to constantly improve it. And this will feed into the next sprint plan. So the next sprint plan, 2 to 4 weeks from now, again, is inspired by the retrospective and the review, and is fed with the items from the backlog. And then you go do this again and again and again. Too long didn't read. At the end, have a team, time box it, start strong, end strong, and focus. So it's hard to implement, of course. So you're seeing this. You're probably excited about Kanban and Scrum, and this is cool. I love this. But how am I going to implement this in my organization? And this is now the big idea that I will suggest to you. Game-changing idea that requires some courage to implement, but it is very doable. There's always something going on. You know this, every time we try to get focused on anybody in anything, it's like, yeah, but I have an OKR meeting, I have this or that. Let's see a few things. What are the recurring things that happen in your organization? The recurring things that happen, you have, and this is a calendar from January to December. At some point, there's a fiscal year. The fiscal year, before the fiscal year, we have our budgeting, we have our strategy. Maybe there's a leadership offsite that comes before the strategy. Yeah? Then we have some sort of recurring OKR or goal-setting flow, probably per quarter. Maybe there is a yearly version of that as well. Then, beyond the goal-setting part, we do a quarterly business review. In some shape or form, we have a moment where we come together to assess our KPIs and our health of the progress. Some people do that with the OKR and QBRs together. Some organizations do differently. Then let's go to the performance management. So there's some sort of performance review at the end of the year, and there's many organizations now do a quarterly performance check-in with their teams. Maybe some will do it, don't do that, some do it monthly. I'm not talking about the one-on-ones, but the sizable, substantial performance check-ins. Yeah? Maybe you have a team offsite that takes a lot of attention. Maybe you have some internal mobility routine and cycle, and it's maybe mid or end year for hiring and internal mobility. So all of this has happened, by the way, and we haven't done any work. Right? All of this happens as the overhead. Then we finally get to work. We also have our operational execution. We have some project work, but then again, they come with steering committees, right? And then maybe there's some market demands. Maybe you have, or maybe some teams are using Scrum, and there's another way to steer the project. Then you have, at the end of the year, it's wild because the sales team is on fire. They want to do some sales. Your organization is not different than anybody else. Every sales team at the end of the year is on fire. Maybe at some point, there are some product releases in your organization that take a lot of attention. Maybe there's conference season in May and June. We've all had that conference season. There's always something going on. Big idea. We don't have to reduce it. We just have to sequence it. All we have to do is take the courage and sequence the responsibilities, not reduce them, but sequence them to allow for focused time. Deep work at scale will only work if you create a different rhythm, a heartbeat in your organization. Let me give it a shot. This is not going to work perfectly for you. It's a very simple version of it, but something along these lines would also work for your organization. Let's just say, so let's take the year. This is 12 months. Let's divide it into 2-week cycles. So we have 24 cycles. Let's be realistic. There are some breaks, right? So we don't want to stress too much the break time. End of December, beginning of January. There is maybe half a break, or we cannot do too much in April. A lot of people are on Easter vacation. In the Western, this is a Western calendar now. It's different if you have also other regions of the world in your team. Then there is August. There is the famous August break. There is some time before and after where not that much happens in terms of alignment and collaboration. Now let's just say we put all of the OKRs and the QBRs and the performance management and all that stuff that is alignment and collaboration and planning and all of that, putting it into 2-week sequences, 1 per quarter, right? So in this quarter, we do the review of OKRs of this quarter and the plan for the OKRs of next quarter. Maybe there's a sprint planning there as well. Then we block flow working time or deep working time. In the areas where we see a lot of white, and then we match it with diverse working time. So this is where we can put anything else, any meetings, any alignment work, any non-deep work phases, right? So we just make sure that when we organize our responsibilities in our organization, we will find the times, the phases where we put all of the planning, and we will have times where we don't put anything that is not deep work, and sequence our workflow like that. And if you do this, also, maybe this was what I love personally is a release culture. So all of the teams after the deep work time or flow working time, so they demo their results from the deep work, so the entire organization sees what happened. So it's a great way to let everybody celebrate and understand what has happened in the deep work time, right? So I just bought you 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 2.5 weeks of focus time in your organization. And that's my 4th piece, developing high performance through focus by design. If you develop the ambition, I want our organization to focus at scale. All of the solutions are there. There's no magic. It's not complicated. It's not technical. It just requires work design and the courage to bring everybody together to say, we want to try something different. We want to lean into the idea of focus.